Hey, welcome to CiNEMACHiNE. I'm Al, and I'm here with Ryan.
Howdy.
And Brandon.
Hello there.
This week, we're going to review A Quiet Place Part 2, finally. So, we've all seen this now. It's good. Good.
You want to start over?
No,
I think
don't.
we should start over.
I don't think so.
No, it's great.
I think it's
great.
good.
It's authentic.
I think it's good. Ryan, you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us, and then we'll chitter chat about the movie.
Chitter chat.
Yes, we will.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the content we're putting out. Give us a follow on Instagram at CiNEMACHiNEPod, and we are now on Patreon, and that is patreon.com/CiNEMACHiNEPod.
Yeah, and even though we're this professional about this, we'll take your money. Thank you very much. So, no, we appreciate everybody that does help us out. So, fellas, everybody's seen this finally. Did you rewatch? Did you rewatch part 1 before you watched this? We'll get into the description and everything in a second. But did you rewatch part 1 before we watched?
I did not, but I have seen this movie several times. The first movie several times because I loved it. So
okay, Brandon.
I didn't rewatch it in preparation. I've seen it 2 times.
Okay,
but
all right.
Not recently.
So,
about you, Al?
I did not. I saw it twice when it first came out. The theater experience was really great, and I kind of wish I had just stuck to the theater experience because it. Not to say the movie was bad. I'm just saying I enjoyed the theater experience so much that watching the movie without that experience that experience was so good. I think it made it kind of water it down a little bit for me. So the second go around. So this movie was released May 28th, 2021 in the theaters, gentlemen. John Krasinski once again directed. $61 million budget, $191.7 million box office. Movies might be back, guys. Following the deadly events at home, the Abbott family must now face the terrors of the outside world as they continue their fight for survival in silence. Forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realize that the creatures that hunt by sound are not only the only threats that lurk beyond the sand path. Of course, we have Miss Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe, Cillian Murphy, and Jamon. I can never say this guy's name right. Jamon Onsu, I think is how you say it. Man on Island. So, gentlemen,
I'll take it. Let me do it.
Here we go.
No, I'm just kidding. I think you got it right.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. Initial thoughts, briefly. Initial thought.
All right. My brief initial thoughts are I freaking love this movie.
Okay.
I loved it.
More or less than the first, or just equal?
Oh, man. That's so tough for me because I love the first one, too. They're probably pretty equal for me.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
Yeah. I loved it.
Okay. Brandon, everybody get in a comfortable chair. Brandon's about to talk about the movie.
I really enjoyed this movie. It's not as strong as the first. I kind of feel at the end of the day, it's more of the same as far as structure and resolution. Mm-hmm. But overall enjoyed it. Just not quite as much as the first one.
Okay. I'm just astounded at Brandon's brief description. I'm very excited about that. So I saw this movie in theaters like everybody else here, and the theater experience was not as great, not because anybody was a knucklehead. There just wasn't as many people, like most things nowadays. So there wasn't that everybody keeping each other in check. There were probably 20 people maybe in the theater. But the theater, the movie itself was okay. It was okay. It wasn't as impactful as the first one for me. I kind of felt that this one was more like a long episode of a TV show, more so than a movie. And like Brandon said, it was just much the same. Not to say it was a bad thing. So let's get into the details of the movie. We open up, they're at a baseball game. We're flashing back before these monsters are anywhere. And they're, introducing and everything. It really seemed like something that would have been in the first movie. I'm glad it wasn't. Introducing the sign language and everything that way and whatnot. But they were the one kid, the middle kid was a little bit too, I don't know, scared of the world for me personally. But then he's playing baseball. They're at a little league game, and all of a sudden everybody's like, "What in the world?" And all kinds of craziness happens. We don't, if we didn't know already, we didn't know that aliens were coming or monsters or whatever you want to call them. And everybody starts running except for the family. They just kind of like, okay, they just kind of saunter out of there. And that's I was kind of like, okay. So did you guys like that they flashed back? Did you feel it was kind of forced? How did you feel about the flashbacks in the beginning and telling the backstory of how they came?
Everything felt pretty organic in this movie for me, and I love that the stuff that they did wasn't necessarily like just kind of like fluff character introductions. Like they brought the dive thing back.
Oh yeah.
Later in the movie, like I don't know, there was
everything
a lot
had
of
a payoff. Yeah,
laying there. Yeah.
Most things.
So. As soon as that happened, I was like, all right, this is a MacGuffin. It's going to be used at the end.
Yeah, no, I love the flashback sequence.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the stronger parts of this movie, personally, in terms of just tension and execution. I really like the whole stunt driving scene. I think that was actually Emily Blunt's, like, she didn't want to rehearse that part. She wanted to experience it in real time. And so that take is her actual first take, experiencing that whole, her driving backwards, bus coming towards her, that kind of thing. She's not driving, but in real life, but yeah, they wanted to she wanted it to be as natural as possible, which I thought was cool. And this is also a good way to kind of set the table to one, it allows John Krasinski to be back in the movie.
Names not work so good.
That's a tongue twister. Krasinski. Yeah. Didgeridoo. Yeah, allowed him to show back up. If you're here, you've seen the first one, you know that he dies, he bites the dust. So it was good to see him again, which we knew he was going to be in it from the trailer. And the little kid. It was also, I heard Krasinski talking in an interview a couple weeks ago about so obviously the kid that played the boy in the first movie has grown up a lot. He's a lot bigger now. So they got a different boy. And you would think, they just didn't show his face because it's a different kid. But he said that his approach to not showing the kid's face was it's a memory. And there's been so much time that's progressed since then that it's like a memory, like the memory of the kid is faded in terms of remembering what he looked like. And so they didn't show his face throughout that sequence, which I thought was a cool touch. But yeah, I enjoyed that sequence a lot. You get little callbacks. You get like in the drugstore,
they focus. They take the camera and say, "Remember the toy? Remember it? Remember the toy? Remember it?" And they just shake you. And they say, "Remember this from the last?" And that drove me crazy. I can't stand when they do.
Why are you the way that you are?
Literally just slides past the rocket ship out.
It doesn't. It focuses on it. It focuses on it. And it says, "Hey, remember this from the last movie?" No, it stops on it. He walks past it and they focus on, and I was like, that was an eye roll moment. I was just like, okay. And then I was just like, we get it. Obviously everybody's seen the first movie. We get it. So, and then whenever they were getting up from the baseball game, another thing I noticed is They get up from the baseball game. Everybody else is like, ah, and they have it choreographed so everybody runs and doesn't get in the way of cinematography and everything. I get that. But it's so obvious that the family is waiting for people to get past them and stuff. And it just like it took me out of it.
Like everybody panicked out of there to me. It just felt like they all kind of
were
like
just kind of like,
walked to
oh,
cars.
monsters. Monsters.
They don't know that the monsters were there at the game.
But there's
that hasn't been
crap
revealed
going
yet.
on in the sky. They're like, what is that? So there's all sorts of nonsense. And then
I have zero issue with either of these issues.
I just didn't feel like they were scared enough. I just didn't feel that way. So anyway,
I thought they were the perfect amount of scared enough.
who was Krasinski?
I thought Cillian Murphy was perfect amount of scared. I thought that Krasinski and his family, everybody,
He said it.
they were exactly the right amount of scared. You know, they don't know what's going on. They're just kind of like, you know, we should probably get out of here.
And then they get into that little bar, and already, John Krasinski's like, shh, they do the sound thing. He figured it out already. He was like, shh, just be quiet. It was like he figured it out.
That's probably a natural thing, though, just to be quiet.
So they don't hear you.
Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like he can't see us if we can't hear us, you know. So it just felt like, oh, okay, they're just not a little bit.
You're reading into it too much.
it was just I don't know. It didn't really introduce it well to me.
If you've got somebody with a gun coming after you and another guy's praying very loudly, you're going to tell him to shut up because the person that's coming after you is going to hear that person. That's a natural thing to do.
But that wasn't the reason he did that, because the way I saw it was he already knew that they reacted to sound more than they reacted to visual. Is the way that he acted in that is the way I was like, good Lord. Like, so, and then they get away. Nobody else gets away.
I think you're wrong.
I agree.
Nobody else gets out of that bar except for those two people, the daughter and the dad. And then they kind of make their way to the car. Now they've seen the monsters and they make their way to the cars and everything. And, you know, they see the mom wreck and everything. And they, okay. I don't know, the polarizing moment there where he's like, do I go help her to save this child and everything? That was a heartstrings moment, but yeah, it was tough. But at the same time, you know, they get out of that unscathed. So because you've seen the first movie. So I wasn't that stressed out during that segment. Was kind of cool to see Cillian Murphy. I like him. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. I was just like, oh, he's just mailing it in. He was really good in this. But so then we get down. The family is now after the first movie, and they are kind of forced out. They have to go and they find out that Cillian Murphy and everything. So they go and they search. They find now Cillian Murphy's kind of like the John Krasinski character in this movie. His wife has died. Didn't she die of cancer or something like that? And
his kid, right?
Yeah, his kid died.
His wife and kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, she died. So, I think she's still in the.
Yeah, she's
building.
Under that sheet on the gurney or whatever. So, and he's like, not a cool.
You missed the part about the son getting his foot caught in the bear trap.
Oh yeah, bear trap.
Holy moly! Whew. That's a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine getting your foot caught in a bear trap and you can't scream.
He screamed.
Noah Jupe was great in this movie.
He's great in everything. He's one of the better kid actors out there.
Who is he?
Noah He's the guy who played Shia in Young Shia.
Honey Boy.
Oh, I thought he was the weakest part of this movie. I was going to say that. No, I really did. I really thought he was the weakest part. Like, I didn't like that character at all. He's just like a little wimpy kid. And I know they had to have his comeuppance at the end of the movie. I get it. But it was just like
continued from the first movie.
Your foot caught in a bear trap before?
I'm not talking about the bear trap. I'm talking about every other moment in this movie. Every other moment in this movie, that kid's a weakling at the baseball game. Kid's a wimp at the
He
baseball.
is in the first movie too. That's the whole thing, man.
So,
that's
like-
why the end. That's why the end is great.
So anyway, that's the first thing I said. Man, that kid was annoying. That's the first thing I said when I left the movie. But no, I
Who'd you say it to yourself?
no, I was with a friend of mine, actually. It's with a friend of mine. So no, I don't know. I just like when they were in the what was that, the furnace or whatever it is that they hide in, and they have the towel to keep it from locking, and then they have the oxygen with the baby still. And he's in there later on in the movie. That scene was really annoying to me too. I don't know. I just felt like I don't know.
Why?
I just didn't think he did a good job. That's why I just didn't think he did a good job.
You know what you are?
What?
You're difficult. Really difficult.
You-
You're a difficult man.
Brandon asks questions now so he can hit drops. That's all it is. And
These
we're gonna see
drops
the
are
same
great. I love
12
them.
drops in a row.
And keep them coming, baby.
Stinky and the Squirrel morning radio show. So no. All right. So we meet Cillian Murphy. His family is gone. He's saying they don't have enough, resources, which makes sense. You have to admit it makes sense. And he's telling him, you can stay tonight, but you need to be gone. You need to get out of here. We don't have enough everything to feed the mouths of children and everything. And he's a family friend from before everything happened. You find that out at the baseball game and whatnot. I forget the daughter's name, Reagan. She, the one with the hearing issues, she's a lot tougher in this movie, and she's kind of like the leader of the family outside of Emily Blunt. And he says
pretty tough in the first one too.
well, yeah, she has her comeuppance. I mean, she's a child, and then she figures that out. She's pretty tough by the end of the movie, yeah. But anyway, he says something about her dad, and she said, you're nothing like my dad, or you'll never be like him, or whatever. So we have that going on, and then she figures something out. She finds out because she has a book with all of the radio signals or whatever in it. Did she have that in the first movie?
I don't know. That's a good
I don't know.
question.
It could have been
I'm
something
sure it's
that
something that
seemed
'Cause
like
it just seemed a little
Krasinski's
too
character
convenient.
had like a
Right.
lot of meticulous notes in his like workshop, so it could have been something
right.
that
That was at least that's how I interpreted.
Yeah, I was
it.
like, well, that's a convenient book to have. So she's like, so she figured this out. There's an island out and about. Is it an island or just across the water? I believe it's an island, and there are survivors over there, and they're living a good life because the monsters haven't figured out how to get over there. So her mission is to get over there and send a signal back via the radio to save her family and tell them that it's safe to come to this island and such. And Emily Blunt's like, the guy, Cillian Murphy had just told her, yeah, you got to go by tomorrow. There's no resources. And she's like, you need to go get my daughter. And so he is now on a mission, and he reluctantly does
Well,
so, but he's on a mission.
She's not just saying, she's pleading with him. She needs his help because she has to stay there with the kid.
Right.
And young little Krasinski Jr. is bleeding out. So
Yeah. He
she's
goes
gotta
out.
get some medicine for him, which I will say, I feel like that pharmacy would be way more ransacked.
That's another
than
thing.
it was.
Yeah. I was like, that thing would have been empty by now. But anyway, and it's kind of weird. I don't know. I mean, I understand they're trying to paint the town as a small town, but don't you think they would have had a second or third pharmacy that was a little bit closer? Maybe. I mean,
I mean, I don't know. Was
Yeah.
it super far away?
Did she say it would be a couple hours? She had to
I mean,
walk
she's
there.
Anything by foot. Anything by foot is far away. If you're in a rural area.
Anything.
And Brandon knows about rural areas.
I do.
Trust me, you cut through the woods without a spider stick, you'd be in for a hurting.
That's also true.
Spider stick. So all right, so Emily Blunt goes on her mission to get oxygen and medicine to clean up her other son's leg, but also oxygen for the baby. And so all this time they're all barefoot still. Okay. So we were led to believe that the barefoot thing actually led to softer steps and whatnot. Cillian Murphy's wearing thick boots the whole time. Did that throw anybody off at all?
Nope.
See, I didn't
Different-
understand why they had to be barefoot still if he can wear shoes.
I don't know, just different ideologies on how they're.
It's one of those things where they had their own system, you know. They had the sand laid out for them, like they did that for themselves, walked around barefoot.
Yeah.
They had spots painted in their house to not do creaking and that kind of thing. That's stuff that they implemented themselves. So
Yeah, they could have gotten some shoes.
it wasn't like the National Pandemic Association was like, all right, guys, put sand out everywhere. This is with paint everywhere you want to step. It's like everybody figured their own stuff out.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, after they saw Cillian Murphy had shoes and they were no longer in the house, they could have gotten some shoes, right? And not had so
I
many
didn't
foot
think about
issues. Because the girl had the foot issues walking on the train tracks and just like going on her journey and whatnot. So her feet were torn up, much like Emily Blunt's feet were when she hit that nail in the first movie. So then she's in a train car, the young Reagan daughter, and monster comes in, and that was probably the best scene in the movie for me because they did that thing where they knock out the sound and you can see the monster and it gets a little tense. Now, although I know they're not going to kill this little girl in this movie because they're not going to be able to do the sound thing, which is a big feature in these movies. So did you guys feel any kind of tension during that area or during her journey?
I felt tension this whole freaking movie.
I don't really, when I watch movies, I just don't think about like, they're not going to kill like even with the baby, like losing oxygen.
yeah.
I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, will they kill a kid in this movie? But I'm not saying like, they're not going to do it. So this is all bull crap. Like, I'm not thinking that because it's still, there's still tension there, regardless of whether you believe they have the guts to do it or not. I think it's still tense.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the tension was good. I mean, I knew that she nor Emily Blunt nor the baby were going to die. I didn't know about the other boy, but I knew those three weren't going to die.
I think it's also one of those things where it would have also been another like, okay, I mean, like they're just going to get like criticized for having another like they killed the dad in the last movie, and so if you kill the mom in this movie, it's like, well, you did that in the last movie, so
right.
You probably were like,
well, little tropey guys. Yeah. So then Cillian Murphy catches up with her, defeats the monster, and she talks him in, pretty much just calls him out for not being good enough to even be in the same breath as her dad. And they have an emotional moment and they go on their journey. And we find out that now were the pirate people, were they cannibalistic or were they just murderers?
I mean, they could be. Who knows?
Well,
they're supposed to be like scavenger, like.
Seemed like they were like they took a vow of silence of some sort to where, you know, because of the nature of like, and like my first thought was, are they introducing zombies in this movie?
I was nervous of that too. For a split
because
second, for a quarter of a second.
Yeah, well, I had that thought when I saw the mom on the gurney or what, like dead, and I thought that there was going to be some like weird reveal with that. This alien thing had reanimated bodies somehow. And then for some reason, whenever the little girl I think it's a girl that's on the dock, when they go up to her, like her eyes glowed or something. And I thought, are they doing some sort of weird like zombie thing? But
Army of the Dead crossover.
yeah.
So I was nervous. That's when I thought, I didn't think that about the wife on the gurney, but I did think that about the little girl. And I was like, oh no. For like quarter of a second, I was like, oh no. And then I'll call them pirates for just the exercise we're doing here. But the pirates show up and take them captive and everything. And then
I think they're just supposed to be like more tribe-like as far as their community. Just more feral.
Maybe so.
Feral's a good way to describe it.
They were some pretty rough characters. They were pretty rough around the edges for sure. So,
Scoot McNairy from BVS fame.
There we go.
Was he in there?
The leader. Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Dang, didn't recognize him with the wig.
Yep. I didn't either, but I learned it after the fact. Learned it.
Brandon does for every movie. Who was in BVS in this movie?
I do too.
So then that's where the dive deal comes back in. And while all of that's happening, Emily Blunt's made it back to the camp, if you want to call it that, the boiler. She is now confronted with one of the monsters that can't see her, so she's trying to get out. The youngest two, the sons, the baby and the young son, are now locked in the furnace. The towel has been knocked off, and they're both having to share oxygen. That was pretty tense. That was
with a limited amount of oxygen.
They were low on oxygen, so that was kind of tense. However, like I said, I didn't know if they were going to kill off the middle child. I just didn't know. The other ones I knew they wouldn't. It's just too much for a movie to do.
It's definitely ballsy. I mean, movies have done it before, but a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, they're just...
Again, I didn't expect them to do it, but it didn't take away the tension because just the idea of the moment is still tense. Like,
yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm this way, Brandon. Just think that. So
I don't either.
So, anyway, so that was happening, and Emily Blunt best the monster, caves in the ceiling and everything, goes down, gets in the furnace with them, has the new oxygen. They're sucking it down. They get down to that oxygen pretty quickly too. And then the boy and Cillian Murphy and Reagan, they're on a boat now. By this point, they fought off the pirates on their way to the island, and come to find out these things can swim underwater a little bit, and they don't like it, but they can swim. And get over to the island, and the island is happy-go-lucky. Everybody's having a good time, barbecuing, listening to the radio, watching TV, living life. It is a whole other world over there. And colony. Yeah, it is a colony for sure. And Cillian Murphy and Reagan, they're being welcomed and with open arms, really. And they tell Jaimin Onsu. They tell him that he's kind of like the mayor or leader. And they have a radio station, and they've been playing a song.
TIA.
They have been playing a song to say, hey, we're here, just on repeat.
Beyond the sea.
Yes. So they go in there. They want to do her little...
You would think that if they wanted people to come, they'd be like, they just play, come here, right? Like, come to this place. Not be real cryptic about it.
Not the monsters.
Maybe they wanted a limited amount of people to figure it out.
The monsters were going to
be
only
the best people that can figure out why we're playing this
song.
Well,
they did.
If they want to live up to that living standard, that's why they got to do it.
Yeah, they started. They started their version of the Hamptons. So But they did know about the pirates. They were familiar with the pirates, or those feral people, if we want to call them that. So that they may have been marketing against them. I don't know. But then we see a boat. The boat that the monster was on made it over to the island, and now everything's terrible again. And they have to get to the radio station, get the sound out, and kind of blast it out. And that was probably one of the more tense moments when they're in the radio station and Cillian Murphy's leg and everything gets mangled by the monster. And but the brother hears it, goes back, and the monster's heads start exploding. So, how did you guys feel about this ending? This revelation going into this, the other one ended on such a heartfelt note with John Krasinski dying, and he sacrificed himself for his daughter and had the whole moment. Where he's like, I love you and I've always been proud of you or whatever. This movie just kind of ended like a movie, like it's action and whatnot. So, how did you guys feel about the ending of this movie?
I mean,
okay.
Well, I was going to say it's definitely not as strong, and this is kind of where my more the same in terms of resolution comes into play. I guess the only difference is now they have an amplified way to combat these aliens with the radio station element there, but it just kind of ends the same way in terms of, I guess the last movie they realized that she could do that with her hearing aid, and then this time they just took it a little bit further, but it resolves the same way, but just not as impactful as you were saying with the whole moment with Krasinski, because that is a great moment.
Yeah, it's a good moment. Ryan?
I actually like this moment as well. The last two movies that I teared up in theaters was Quiet Place 1 and Quiet Place 2. Both at the end. I know you're not a huge fan, but I like the Noah Jupe's character kind of going through that arc of finally, like, his dad tried to teach him to kind of man up, and his mom tried to teach him to man up, and he finally does at the end and protects his sister and mother. So I actually like it. This actually did tug at my heartstrings some. And I don't know. I didn't feel like it was necessarily the same end, because the last movie felt so defensive, and this one actually felt like they were at the end. They had made progress, like on the offensive front. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from here.
That's actually where I was going. Is, do you think they need to stop here, or do you think they need? I know that they're coming out with like a side story in a couple years, but these kids are going to start getting older, and they're not going to look like they're still. They can story book that away a little bit, but I mean, the kids already looked, especially Reagan. She looked noticeably older to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not like greatly, not like she looked like a woman in comparison to a child or anything, but you can tell she's older. So do you think they should stop here and stop while they're ahead, or do you think they should keep going and kind of wear it into the ground a little bit?
We talked a little bit at one point, I think, about the spinoff they're doing, and I hope it's I would like to see this from like a different perspective. It'd be cool to see this as like from like a military perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be kind of cool to, in the third movie, kind of marry these first two and whatever they do in the spinoff, if it is a military type film.
So you're hoping they build a world, is what you're saying? Maybe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, well, as far as if I think they should, I mean, I think there's more to explore. I just hope that in the third entry that they introduce another element that's not just we can take these guys out with this sound, essentially. Like right now, it kind of feels like a cheat code that they can use as long as they have the hearing aid sound available. But it feels like, there needs to be some sort of leveling up of the villain, so to speak, to where maybe, or introducing some sort of, I don't know what it is. I'm not a writer, but
I feel like there needs to be like a take back kind of movie. Like that's where I feel like the military thing could be interesting. If you introduce the military and then maybe introduce the combination of what they figured out with sound and the military with these characters, it could be kind of cool for like a take back the world kind of film in the third one. Just don't want to see him like.
I don't know if I want it to get too big. Like I like the small scale nature of it.
Yeah, I think if it gets too big, it's going to feel like one of those War of the Worlds movies or something like that, where it's just like a Roland Emmerich movie where it's just
War of the Worlds.
Like it's just too much. It's just too like busy and annoying. So, and it's just movement to have movement and cool scenes. I think, like you're saying, the more watered down, kind of simplistic approach to this is better. I will say this: the monsters looked a little better this go around. Not that they looked bad in the last one, but you could tell they had a little bit more budget, so it was nice. But I think honestly, the future of this could honestly be like they could have a whole. Not that I don't know that I want to see much more of this because it did feel too much of the same. And so it would really have to be something kind of different for me to be interested in seeing another one. But I think they could make a series out of this show if they did it the right way, to where this is happening in other parts of the world. And there's like, similar to that island, there's a place where you can meet up and they can, defeat them. And they're all trying to get to that. And that's the whole show, where they're trying to get to that island from different areas of the world and things like that. So something like that. That's what I saw when I was watching this. So
yeah. Well, with something like this, it's one of those things where you can, because this is a global threat, you can kind of expand it to different. You could put it in more of a metro setting versus a more rural setting, or you could do just a different country, or
but keep it on a small scale, like we were talking about, like 28 Days Later kind of feel. That movie was great to me and just kept it so personal. And
I feel like it will be. I mean, with Jeff Nichols doing the spinoff, I think it'll still be in the vein of kind of, boots to the ground, grassroots, because that's his, his specialty. That's what he's been doing the whole time he's been making movies. So it'll be interesting to see, have a spinoff with a different creative behind the wheel. So.
Yeah, it'll be good to see it through a different lens, maybe, but it does have to be different for me to be interested in seeing it, because it, like I said, it just felt like a
just cast John Bernthal and I'm there,
and Adam Driver as the monster. So
sure.
All right, guys. So, anything else you want to say about this movie before we give it our bye? Go see it, whatever. No? Okay. All right. Ryan, would you buy this movie? Suggest somebody just go watch this movie? Wait till it comes out on Netflix? What would you do?
Buy it. I loved it. It was awesome.
Brandon?
I would say go see it in theaters right now. If you're listening to it while it's still in theaters, it's definitely a good movie to go back to the theaters for. And then, buy it. It's great. So
that is a big note. This got Brandon out of his house. So, so that is one big piece of this positivity. Brandon got out of his house to see a movie. That's good. That's good. I would say see it, but I would see it with a group of people, so you can kind of experience.
I know that you said your theater was pretty low. Mine was packed. For COVID, it was complete. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was sold out.
Yeah, we didn't have the limitations. The guy at the counter actually said, so I got there, my friend met up with me, and we were both kind of like meeting in the middle because we both live like hour and a half away from each other. So we met up in the middle, and the guy said, I said, oh, are there tickets left? Because I'd looked on Fandango, seeing what times, and it didn't look like it was moving. And I said, do we not need to pick out what seat we're sitting in? He goes, you can sit anywhere you want to. Like, nobody's here to see this movie. So there were more people than he had alluded to, but they weren't doing the COVID distancing. And then a few other people I know that actually saw this movie in theaters said they weren't doing COVID for them either. So it just really depends on where you are, you know. So not everybody.
You saw it a couple weeks into the release as well.
Yeah, right? I saw it a week or two after it came out. Yeah.
Ryan, it was 3 or 4 weeks into the release.
Yeah.
I saw it opening night. That's probably why it was a little more packed for me. But
yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, maybe that theater going experience spoiled me, you know, and made me really experience that differently. But yeah, I would suggest people still see it. I think it's a well-made movie. It has its flaws like most movies, but if you really like the first one, this is probably a continuation. And I probably do not like this one as much because of the theater experience. Because I said even the second time I watched the first one, it wasn't as entertaining to me because it was a great exercise in going to a movie theater. So, well, gentlemen, we finally reviewed A Quiet Place 2. Fantastic.
Finally.
Everybody, tell us what you think about it. Ryan, you want to tell them how they can do that?
Yep. You can comment on this video. You can follow us on Instagram at CiNEMACHiNE. Make sure you hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and notification bell. And we are also on Patreon, patreon.com/CiNEMACHiNEPod.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of CiNEMAChine. We will be back next week with a live episode, and very soon we'll be reviewing more movies. So let us know what you're watching. Let us know what we should be watching, and we'll see you all on the next CiNEMAChine.